5,000 new items? 500? How many new items did you say was in that mod?
5,000 shipping items.
That's like a whole new game, right?
By the end of the year, I'm going to be well on my way, easily past 2,000 hours by then. Also, I can't remember how to play the game.
Do you ever feel like you're going to burn out? Hello, everyone, and welcome to this 18th episode of the Gaming Garden podcast, where we discuss everything related to farming games. I'm your host, Josh, and this week's guest, if you're craving for Stardew Valley content, you're gonna find it with her. She does 100-day videos, live streams, challenges. I have with me Emmalution. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, like I said, you play a lot of Stardew Valley, and we'll talk about that today. Our main topic will be the replayability of farming sims and how much we can just play one game forever and ever. And but first, could you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us more about who is Emma and what can we find on your channel?
So, hi, I'm Emma, otherwise known as Emmalution. I primarily do Stardew Valley content, but I have touched on a few other cozy games and maybe a couple of not so cozy games as well. But the most of my content is doing various challenges or different long form playthroughs of Stardew Valley, mainly modded.
Amazing. So we will get to talk about all of that, and I'm looking forward to hearing about the mods and everything, because I did play Stardew Valley quite a bit, but not nearly as much as you, so I can't wait. And then at the end of the episode, we will be covering some news. So there are a few things happening this week. There's a new update for my time at Sandrock. A new game was announced from the developers of Cozy Grove. Some sad news from the developers of Paleo Pines. And a brand new trailer for Grave Seasons, a very mysterious, kind of almost horror farming sim. So we'll have a look at all of that. But first, as always, we'll discuss this week's releases. So on October 10th, we have the release of Ember Isle for Steam. And it was supposed to release for the Switch on October 31st. It's been delayed to November 21st. I got the chance to play a little bit of this game early. I was wondering, Emma, did you play a little bit? Did you get early access to this game?
I haven't had a chance to play this one yet, but I did look at the trailer and I am really excited by it. I love anything kind of like Deno related, so I definitely need to check this one out.
So when I first saw this game, I was really captivated because it looks really cute. The dinosaurs are adorable, and I love shopkeeping games like Moonlighter, Cuisinier, Reciteer. I love all the shopkeeping games. So I got to play 3 hours of this game, and unfortunately, I don't think I'm gonna go past that 3-hour mark.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was very tough. So the character creation was great. There's so many different options. So you can play as different types of dinosaurs. You can change like patterns, all the body parts. You can customize. You have lots of options for like colors. So when I was creating my dinosaur, I was really impressed and I had a good first impression. And then I got into the game. The tutorial was dragging on for like over an hour. And so most of this game is the shopkeeping portion. So you'll have people coming into your shop, you place some items on your shelves, and then the other part is foraging. Most of it is shopkeeping, and it's just not that interesting. You just stand there in your shop, and then you have customers walk in, and then they want to haggle with you, and it just gets tedious doing the same haggling over and over again. And I had lots of like little bugs, little issues as well. So for example, one time the customer comes in and he wants to buy something that's like $10, and he says, no, I'll take it for $9. And then so I negotiate to $9, and he still says, oh, it's too expensive, no, I'll do $9. And then it's $9, and he's still like, no, please do $9. So we're like fighting for the same price, and the transaction just wouldn't go through. So yeah, there was just lots of like little bugs, little issues like that. I'm disappointed with this one.
That's upsetting because it did look like a really, really good time. From the trailer, at least.
Yeah. So hopefully they can fix it. Like they're delaying the Switch version to polish it more. I feel like this is a game that could have potential, needed a little bit more time. So
yeah.
So do you think you'll be trying it when it releases? this week?
I mean, I'd quite like to. I haven't really got that much experience with kind of shopkeeping games, so this would be kind of new to me, and seeing it in a kind of like cute dino way, that kind of appeals to me. But it's one of the things, like you say, if it's going to be extremely repetitive on a day-to-day basis, then now I'm not quite sure. So I think I'm going to have to see what it's like when it comes out, and maybe it's one of the ones that I keep an eye on for like later updates when they might add more.
Yeah. Also, one thing I feel like, because when I started this game, you can see that there are so many like different specialties. So like you can sell gardening furniture, or you can sell food, you can sell artisan stuff. So there's lots of specialties you can get into. It seems like there's so many different items you can craft. So I wonder if maybe later in game it gets more complex or more interesting. But for me, it's hard to, if I can't get into a game into the first 3 hours, it's hard to justify like to keep playing, like hoping it would get better.
No,
So
exactly. I mean, like 3 hours, if you think about it, it's still quite a while. Like if people are coming home from their job, they might have a couple of like an hour or two. And that is probably all you have. You don't want to be spending multiple days on trying to just like a game.
Yeah, exactly. You should be enjoying yourself. And as content creators who play so many games, but it's like someone who buys just one game a month, or who only has a few hours each day or each week to play something, you don't want to spend half of that time just trying to like a game that you're not too sure about. Is there any game you're looking forward to in the near future? I feel like it's a pretty quiet month, October.
It has been quiet, but I'm also like, I feel like I do such a terrible job at keeping up with releases. Like a lot of the time I use your main channel for this kind of news. So like when I see things are coming out from you, I'm like, okay, maybe that one I'll keep my eye on. But sometimes it can be hard to like keep track of the sheer amount of them, especially when they come in like waves of them, when there's like, I don't know, 10 releasing in a month, and trying to figure out which ones are for me. A lot of brain power to try and figure out what's what.
It does take a lot of brain power to just keep up with all the releases, try to figure out which one is going to be best for you and all of that. But the good thing about your channel is that you don't have to think about that too much, because you play Stardew Valley, you play like one game over and over again, which is why I invited you today. I wanted to discuss this idea of what makes a farming sim game replayable. What is that one thing that keeps us playing these games over and over again? So we both came up with a list of 3 of our most played farming sims. So why don't you start? What is one game? I think we have an obvious one. Which game would you like to start with that's in your top 3?
I mean, if we go with the one that is like my most played farming game, it's obviously going to be Stardew Valley. I think by the end of the year, I'm going to be well on my way, easily past 2,000 hours by then. So, yeah, there's a lot of that.
That is a lot. I have about 100 hours in Stardew Valley, so you'll have to. I mean, I could see myself playing it a lot, but what keeps you? What is the like biggest thing that makes it so you could play 2,000 hours of this game?
So it's 2 things, maybe more than that, but 2 main things. So it's mods, which I kind of like touched on earlier, just because like you're still playing the same game, but it's different. There's more added, or it can make it more challenging. And then the other thing is, of course, challenges. We've got a lot of challenges kind of made by the community, like in my community. So it's been a lot of fun trying to like work through those. I think the thing that makes it satisfying is obviously with the perfection kind of goal at the end. There is that like kind of 100% perfection goal, and there's so many ways to reach it. And the mods change how you can reach it. These challenges change how you're allowed to reach it. So it just gives me a lot of ways of like, okay, what can I do differently this time to make this work?
Do you prefer to play like one save file for a very, very long time? Or do you prefer to like start over? What is your preferred like way?
It's kind of a mix. So
Yeah.
I think the majority of my saves I have played to perfection. And there've all been some sort of challenge, and some kind of like last longer than others, depending on what kind of content is in the game or what kind of rules that I have on me. So, for example, like I've got one at the moment with the Rapidax mod, adds over 5,000 items to ship, and a lot of them are artisan goods. There's like 300 fruit trees, there's like hundreds of crops. So that's going to last like a long time. I think I'm in year 4 or 5 or something at the moment. Still got a long way to go, but then other ones I'll easily do in like sort of maybe 2 in-game years, maybe just a little bit more than that. So it kind of varies. I mean, I don't really know what's usually considered like long, I guess, because this is just kind of the way I'm used to playing it.
Yeah. That's amazing. When you said like 5,000 new items, 500, how many new items did you say was in that mod?
5,000 shipping items.
That's like a whole new game, right?
Yeah,
That yeah.
there's so much. I
Wow.
mean, there's other mods. You can't do it without like automate, for example. I mean, you could. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could.
Yeah, I've never played Stardew Valley with mods. So the first time I played Stardew Valley was when it first released in 2016. And I went back to it in recent years, and just the base game itself has had so much content added in the, like, we got 1.6 this year. And I feel like just with the vanilla base game, there's so much it can keep you busy for a while. But so do you play with mods most of the time?
Yeah, so I've
Yeah.
only ever done 2 saves without them, as in like ones that are kind of finished. So I first started playing myself in 2017. I actually first got it on the Switch. I don't really play it much on the Switch because I don't like the feel of it on controller. But I used to just kind of like play it on my commute to and from my old job, and then I just kind of forgot about it until the end of 2021. And then at the start of 2022 or something, I played with Expanded for the first time, and that just did it for me. That was it. I'm playing with mods all the time. Like,
Yeah.
it kind of opened up my world. So maybe might be a case that if you try some mods, you might get hooked as well.
Yeah, I feel like I need to have a good grasp of everything. Like, I've never done like Ginger Island and like all of these things that were added in like recent updates. Well, recent, like a few years ago. I told myself that if I made like one, say, Fallout 100%, then maybe I would get into mods. Do you have a few mods, like let's say like 3 top picks of mods that you would recommend for someone who's looking to like spice up their Stardew Valley experience?
So even if you did want to do like a kind of like vanilla run without any added content, there are a lot of really good quality of life mods that help a lot. So I wouldn't be without UI Info Suite anymore. So even if you just wanted to do a completely vanilla run with just UI Info Suite, it would help so much. Like, it shows you the layout of the sprinklers, the range of the scarecrows. It can remind you about things like birthdays and to check the TV. You can customize what reminders you want. Also the to-do mod, which is like a to-do list that you can add stuff to as reminders, because I'm constantly forgetting things. But those two, I can't be without those two, because with ADHD, it's really hard for me to keep track and remember what I'm doing constantly. I will forget within 3 seconds what I'm doing or what something did. So even though like by now I'm used to things like the sprinkler layouts and things like the scarecrows, it just takes that load off my brain. It makes it so much more enjoyable when I don't have to think about those things at all.
Yeah, that's always one thing in farming sim I hate, when you play scarecrows or sprinklers and they don't tell you the range of them. So
Yeah.
I feel like that sounds like such a good mod. I feel like what I hear from a lot of people with Stardew Valley is that they feel overwhelmed with this game. So I don't know if there are any mods for those people, or do you have just like advice in general for people that maybe tried Stardew Valley but they were feeling stressed out, or they were just like had that overwhelming feeling of there's just too much to do and they don't want to add content, they just want to like make it less stressful? Is there something you'd recommend
So
for those people?
even if like not thinking about mods, like just play the game at your own pace and discover it as for what's in the game. Like, obviously, there are a lot of channels that are like not just mine going through a lot of content at once within a playthrough. And I do often get comments that are saying like, "Oh my gosh, I'm only at the end of year 3 and I've still not finished the community center. I'm so bad at the game." And it's like, no, you're not bad at the game. You're just playing it at your pace. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you're enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the other things that changed it for me, like sort of semi-immersion wise, was actually like taking the time to think about the characters a little bit more and getting to know them. I used to be someone who would ignore all the villagers, skip all the cutscenes. Like, I'd be like, no, I just want to like walk around and do my crops and chop my trees and all that. But I got one comment once on a video that was like, well, no wonder you don't care about the characters. You skip all the cutscenes. That's so much lore you're missing out of. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I should probably stop doing that. And that also helped a lot as well, because it just like it adds so much more to like the feel and the story.
Yeah, that is a good point. That's sometimes I feel like Stardew Valley is not too bad for that. Usually the dialogues and cutscenes are pretty like straight to the point, but in some games sometimes it just drags on forever and you don't want to.
Yeah.
Sometimes the dialogue just keeps on going, but I find the dialogues are quite interesting in Stardew Valley. But the thing, I have a bit of a hard time with the art, like the portrait art. I know there are mods for that as well, so you could change up. Have you tried? Do you play with any mods that like change up how the characters look, or like change up their dialogue or personality or anything like that, or do you just keep it?
So dialogue-wise, there's one really good one that's called specific gift reactions. So instead of like everyone saying like, "Oh, you remembered my birthday, thank you," if you give them a loved gift, they're like, "Oh my gosh, thank you for this particular thing." Like it's very specific to the item you give, and that's really fun. Portraits-wise, I haven't really changed much of that, other than when I used the Looking for Love mod, which makes some of the non-dateable villagers dateable.
Yeah.
There's like sort of younger versions of some of them, because a lot of them are like the older NPCs. That's the only time I've done it, but that wasn't really intentional. I wasn't really looking for that.
Yeah.
The other thing I have changed appearance-wise is there are a lot of recolor mods out there, so if you don't like how the actual like map looks, you can change the color of that and make it personal to you as well, even if you didn't want to change the actual content of the game.
Yeah. Because you've played the game so much, you must know like all the lines of dialogue, or do you still see some new stuff? Because I think they added lots of dialogue, right, in 1.6?
Yeah, so I did start kind of like getting used to some of the dialogues, but now they've added more, I'm reading them again because some of them are quite funny. There's a lot that's been added dialogue wise, and I think some of them are more like even before were like more rare than others. So I do still kind of like half pay attention, but sometimes I tend to like read a little too quickly and then skip over it a little bit.
Yeah, that happens to all of us. So do you ever feel like you're going to burn out on this game from playing it all the time?
At the moment, no. Like I keep saying to myself, like I do want to branch out and look at other things as well, but I have like a list of challenges that I want to work through, kind of ideas for mod packs that I want to work through, some of which might come with like a backstory for my farmer. That's another thing I do as well, is I don't just like play as like me as I am. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna be a fisherwoman who's been kicked out of an anti-fishing club, or I'm my evil twin and I'm gonna steal from all the shops instead of buying from them. It just like it completely changes like how the game is while still also being the same game. I don't know how to like put that part into words, where I'm playing so differently each time that it feels different, but it's still Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
So I can't see myself burning out of it anytime soon, but there's so many other things I also want to do.
I know. It's tough to find a balance between, do I replay that same game that I love over and over again, or do I play a new game? I feel like some people feel guilty of playing the same game over and over again. Personally, I love doing it. I don't mind like replaying a game that I know and love, but some people do feel bad for replaying the same games. You're fine with it, I guess.
No, completely fine with it. I mean, like if people feel like guilty replaying the same games, I mean, if you enjoy it, then there's no problem. If you're enjoying it, then that's the part that matters, not the fact that you've played it before.
Exactly. Games are meant to be enjoyed, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. So that is a Stardew Valley. Now I'm gonna go with one of my picks. I don't know if you've played that one before, and it's for quite different reasons than yours. Harvest Moon 64. I bring up this game all the time. You have not?
No.
Oh, you're missing
I need to.
out. Yeah. So this one is interesting because the game is not that long and there's not that much content. It was the second game in the series. Days were super short. They were like half the length of a day in Stardew Valley. So like everything was super quick in this game. And the main story, like you see an ending after 2 years and a half where you're like being judged on what you did. And so you can play the whole game and be like 25 hours, or you can do like even the first year, maybe like 10 hours or so. The one thing that keeps it interesting, even though there's not that much like different content, is that a lot of the events are kind of like time gated, or like they have very specific requirements. So every playthrough, you're gonna miss a few things. Like there's a photo album where like if you do certain events, you're gonna get a picture, and you can try to do a perfect run and get all the pictures, which I never managed to do. But yeah, every run is different because you're gonna miss some events, and I know people don't like missing things, but that's really the appeal for me, and just like going back every time, and every playthrough is different. So even though the game is short, yeah, that's why I always go back to this one, like at least once a year, once every 2 years.
I really need to give this a go because that's got my little like challenge button in my brain going. I've got to add that to the list.
Yeah, I know. I'd love to make a video one day of like trying to do a perfect run of this game, and you have to like really plan everything if you want to do that. Like, okay, this day this event is gonna happen, that day this event's gonna happen, and I need to get this girl to like a pink heart before this date, and there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's a lot of time management as well, since the days are so short, and that makes it so addictive for me. And it is on the Nintendo Switch Online if you have the expansion pack.
Yes, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I noticed it the other day. I was thinking about it, but I just haven't had a chance to like really get into it at any point yet.
It definitely does not have like too many quality of life features, and like for example, every time you want to take out an item, you have to press start. So like if you harvest your crops, you're gonna harvest all your crops and then open your bag and then ship them one at a time. But for each one, you have to open your bag, grab the tomato, put the tomato in the shipping bin, open your bag, grab another tomato, put it in the shipping bin, open your bag, grab another tomato. So it is like kind of tedious. Especially I think if you didn't play the original like back when it released. That's one game that I like replay a lot, even though it is pretty short, and I do recommend everybody to play it. What's your next game on your list?
It's really funny because like any other farming sims, like time-wise, don't even come close to Stardew, and I haven't really like played anything with a significant amount of time, at least like if I'm just looking at the hours. But I've got Dinkum on there, and that was 100 hours, and then Sunhaven for 85. But I haven't played both of those in over a year.
Let's start with Dinkum. I have about 100 hours, a little bit more than 100 in this one, and it's still in early access, but there's so much content. What makes this game replayable for you?
So I like kind of like the feel of, even though it's like farming sim, but obviously it's where it's not like kind of 2D pixel art like obviously Sunhaven and Stardew Valley are. I kind of like the feeling of those sort of games they have the same kind of feel as other survival crafty type games, and those are also something I really love. I think it was because I love things like Minecraft. This had an appeal to me. It was kind of like a mashup of Stardew and Minecraft in a way, but with a, Aussie twist. So it was really easy for me to get hooked. I've only really played one save of this, so I have got like 100 days type video on this. I've got 2 of those, both on the same save. I played a little bit with my husband, but it was just kind of like I played it right when it released. I haven't touched it since back then, so it's been 2 years actually since I played that. And there was so much content in it. There was so much to do, and I don't think I even finished everything there was to do. So I can easily just get lost in like building my town up and trying to progress. Like the progression was really satisfying in it. I think that was like the main thing. They don't give you everything at once. So things like the licenses, you have to like unlock them over time. I think it's a common theme with things that I enjoy is you don't get everything at once. Like right at the beginning, you have to spend a lot of time unlocking stuff.
Yeah, same. I love grinding to unlock different things. And like I said, I have 100 hours into this game, all in one save file. And I feel like I still have so much to do. I still don't have, like, there's a license to drive a helicopter. I still don't have that. And I feel like it's the kind of game you can spend, kind of like in Animal Crossing, can spend like thousands of hours just decorating your island, because you're not restricted to just one farm. You have the whole island, so you can terraform, you can do like a little town, you can do farms. It's kind of like Minecraft where the imagination is your limit. So I feel like as long as you have ideas, you can do something. It's a very sandbox game, and some people don't like that. Some people need to have goals given to them by the game. So if that's your case, I think this game might not be for you. But if you're a very sandbox person, I think you can play this game forever. And it has multiplayer too. Like you said, you played with your husband. So I think playing with friends, it just adds so much to the fun. So would you say you're more of a sandbox person overall in games?
I feel like it's kind of hard to say. Like, I enjoy a story, but it's kind of like a bit like if you think about Stardew. I know I reference that a lot, but obviously it's just mainly my experience. There is kind of a story when you think about like the community center and some of the characters and all that kind of stuff, but it's not something you have to focus on necessarily. You can just go about and decorate your farm and grow your crops. So if it doesn't as long as it doesn't force you to do it the second that it wants you to do it, I think that's something I find frustrating in games, when you can be in the middle of something and then a character will come up and be like, no, let me pull you away and do this other thing whilst I'm in the middle of something. And it kind of like, I find it difficult when that happens because my brain needs to focus on the thing that I want to focus on. Otherwise, I will struggle.
Mm-hmm. There's just so much to do in this game. So do you think you'll go back to it at one point? I know you've not played it for 2 years. So when you stop playing a game for so long, how do you deal with that? Do you start over, or do you force yourself to continue?
I don't know if I want to, with this one, start a new one or carry on the old file, because I've heard that, especially, it's kind of hard to judge this on like an early access game versus something that's been out for a while, because even like now there's been so much added to the game and it's still early access, so we're probably still going to see more being added. So I think now a lot of people have said the early game has changed quite a lot. So if I was to go back now, I would probably start again, because especially after, even though I would be rusty as heck, it's still going to be a case of like seeing what the earlier bits have to offer and seeing where they come into the game is another thing that I kind of like to experience.
Yeah, it's always different for early access. I feel like usually early access games, I play them a little bit just to get a taste, and then I go back to the full release. But I feel like this one was so polished and had so much to offer right from the start. It's also been a while. Like every time I go back to this game, I always take like a few months break, and I'm always like so rusty whenever I go back to it. It's hard.
It can feel really overwhelming.
Uh-huh.
Like going back into something you've not done for a while, because sometimes you can just drop out of stuff when you're sort of semi in the middle of not fully in the middle of a project, but maybe you were partway through doing something and then something else came out and then you just like forgot about the game for a while. So sometimes the difficulty with going back to something after a long time, I'm in the middle of doing something, I don't remember what it was or why I was doing it. Also, I can't remember how to play the game.
Yeah.
So sometimes starting again, like especially after that, like a couple of years, can be better.
That's one thing I loved about Harvest Moon 64 is that the game is kind of short, so I don't have to I just start over every time, pretty much. So I don't have to like really go back into it and okay, what was I doing in this specific save file? I just start over and like it goes by super quickly. So I feel like that's one other little perk of like having a short game that's like highly replayable. One thing too about farming sims, I know a lot of people, personally I don't care too much for that, but I know a lot of people will do a different save file for each marriage candidate to like see the different scenarios, to like see the different romance elements. Do you do that, or do you tend to like not care too much?
Mostly because like I get to perfection and then I start again. That is mostly the case, but sometimes it will fit into sort of like the kind of story of what I'm doing, that I will divorce one marriage candidate and then marry another in the same file. But the difficulty with like that is if you've got like a friendship thing, obviously it resets it to 0, and then you have to like work at building that back up again, and that takes a while. So sometimes it's like hard to want to do that, but I guess that's another way that people love mods. I mean, particularly talking about Stardew, is because there is a mod where you can just marry everyone at the same time.
Oh yeah.
So you can just experience all of them. But instead of me just playing as like the farmer or myself, it makes me feel like I'm immersing myself into a different story, I guess, by playing a new save.
Honestly, mods make such a big difference. I feel like there's not that many farming sims that have a community like Stardew Valley that has like so many mods. Do you know any other game that has like a lot of mods? Like in the world of farming sims?
In the world of farming sims, no, but that could be
Yeah.
because I haven't played enough. Like, I don't know what it is. I haven't looked for them, but I'm wondering if Dinkum might be another one that might either have mods or end up with mods. I just see it as a
Yeah.
game that will be modded somehow,
Yeah.
even if it was like adding new items and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll have to look into it more too, but it's hard. Like Stardew Valley has such a big community, it's hard for other games to achieve like everything that Stardew does. But the one game I've also been playing a lot is Rune Factory 5. I have close to 400 hours in that game, in 2 save files. And I would say, have you ever played the Rune Factory series?
No, so I did a very small amount of Rune Factory 5, just to like kind of like get a feel of it, but I can't remember why. I think I couldn't get into it because it was a lot of brain power trying to learn the game at the time. A lot of the time when I'm trying something new, it's got to be, do I have the time and do I have the brain power right now to be able to do it? But it is something that I've heard a lot of really good things about, and I do kind of want to get into. But I've also heard that Rune Factory 5 is not the place to start if you're wanting to get into it either. So I'd love to know your opinion on that.
Yeah, I would say Rune Factory 5 is not my favorite. I chose this one for today's episode because it is, by looking at the numbers, the one that I did play the most, even though it's not like my favorite. So right now on the Switch and Steam, we have Rune Factory 3, 4, and 5. 4 is the one that has the most content, and there's a lot to do in 4, and it is a really good game. 3 is very similar to 4. It doesn't have as much content. The story is shorter, so you can finish the whole like main story in maybe 20-25 hours, whereas Rune Factory 4 will take a lot more. But I like the story and characters more in Rune Factory 3. But you can only play as a boy in Rune Factory 3. As 4 and 5, you can play as a boy or as a girl. And then 5, it's good. It still has a lot of content, but it is a little bit on the easier side. And the world, because it's in 3D, but which sounds good, but actually a lot of the environments are a bit empty. When you're exploring the world in 4 and 3, everything looks cute. There's like so many little details everywhere. 5 doesn't look the best, but I still enjoyed it. And I would say the reason why I love the Rune Factory series so much is that, like, yes, you can finish the story in a reasonable amount of time and like just stop playing after the story if you want, after getting married. But there is so much, like all of the games have a lot of end game content. So like you've got like extra dungeons at the end, and there's a lot of grinding you can do if you want to get like the best weapons. All of your crops, you can level up all of your crops to level 10. Make sure you have like hundreds of different monsters you can tame, so you can try to just collect all of the different monsters. There's also like when you ship items, there's a percentage. It tells you like the percentage of items that you shipped. So you want to like craft all the weapons, craft all the little items, and like try to ship them and get that to 100%, which I've not done yet. But there's just so many, and there's like achievements in the game as well. There's just so many little things that you can grind and work towards. And also it combines like the life sim and combat RPG elements as well. So depending on your mood, you always have something to do.
Sounds like there's a really good kind of like variety of stuff to do in there. I think that may be why I was a little bit overwhelmed at the time, but I think if I was to come back to that game with the right like head on, I'd probably really love it. It's just like, I guess not been the time, but it's another one of those games that is on that list of like things that I do actually want to dedicate a little bit to trying to get into.
Yeah, you should. And like I said, you can always do the main story, which is like not too long, and then after that you have so much content if you like the game. So I like this thing because sometimes you have games that are just long, that are gonna take you like 100 hours to beat the main story, and a lot of people will give up before. I like when, like for example, have you played My Time at Sandrock?
Very, very, very small amount, and that's another one that's on the list of I really want to do that, especially with all the things they've done to update it. Like, it's another one I really want to go back to.
Yeah. So the thing is, my time Sandrock, there is so much content. I've played that game. I think I'm over 80 hours. The thing is, there's like 3 main acts in the story, and I just finished the second one. So I feel like it's gonna take me over 100 hours to finish the main story, and that's kind of annoying me. I feel like, yes, I want to play the game for a long time, but I like to get the story out of the way, do the side content, and just like do my own thing. How do you feel about that? Do you like a long story that just like keeps on going, or do you prefer to do your own thing if you're gonna play a game for like 100 something hours?
I feel like both kind of styles have their place depending on the sort of mood, if that makes sense. So sometimes I do just want to like quickly get through a story and have a shorter sort of initial experience, but sometimes I do want it to like last a long time because at the moment, sometimes I'll play a game and I'll finish it in sort of a few hours, but I didn't check first how long the game is, which is obviously on me. But then it's over and I'm like, oh no, I finished it. Now I'm sad. Like I but I mean I know you can like carry it on with things like my time at Sandrock, but sometimes I do want a little bit of a like longer scenario, a reason for me to want to come and jump back in beyond my own kind of motivation, if that makes sense. So like, oh, I haven't finished this story yet, so I do want to get more into it again, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What is one? Do you have an example of a game recently that just was like too short for you?
I can't remember off the top of my head what they are because like my memory is very limited, kind of as it is. So when that happens, I tend to just be like, oh, okay, and then I'm on to, either the next thing or back to Stardew. I mean, I even have a hard enough time like trying to keep my head remembering even the Stardew saves that I am currently playing. So sometimes when that happens, it's like, oh, that's over. And unless I like visually see it again, I've probably forgotten that I've played it or that it existed. If that makes sense. So
yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, maybe that's kind of a bad sign for a game if I can't remember too much about it. But I think, and it's not a farming sim, but one of the ones that I thought was shorter than I expected it to be was I played Pikmin 4, which was my first Pikmin game last year. And then because it was my first one, I had no idea how any of it worked. I got to the end and I was like, oh no, I finished it. But then I just replayed it immediately because I understood it a little more and I kind of wanted to see if I could do it a bit quicker. So I guess that's like not a farming game, but it was replayable and also a bit shorter than I thought it was going to be, I guess.
Yeah, Pikmin is so good. For me, I've been playing the Pikmin series since the beginning, and I feel like the most replayable is Pikmin 1, and for a similar reason that I had for Harvest Moon 64 is because it's so short. So you have, in Pikmin 1, you have a time limit of 30 days to find all the ship parts and everything. So you can do the whole game in maybe like 5 to 10 hours, maybe 7 hours, maybe a little bit more. So it is fairly short, but then you want to play it again to try to do a better time, try to finish it within fewer days or by having less of your Pikmin dying, try to come up with strategy and like a better time management. So I feel like that's really one thing. Sometimes a short game, if it's designed the right way, it can be like very highly replayable, I feel like.
Yeah, I did try to get into the Pikmin 1 and 2. So I've got the double pack for the Switch with the Pikmin 1 and 2. After playing the fourth one, I did want to try the earlier games as well, but it's so hard with Pikmin 4 being my first one to then go back to the first game with how sort of different it is, and obviously there are different kind of like, over time naturally quality of life things. So I haven't finished it yet. I started it and I just like I couldn't. I think it was also triggering my motion sickness a little bit, so maybe it was a little bit of that as well.
There's definitely a curse when you try a game like the latest one in the series first, and then you want to go back. Same with like Harvest Moon 64, someone who played like the latest Story of Seasons or like any modern farming sim, and then they go back to it. It's kind of rough. So sometimes I feel like if there's a new game that comes out in a series and I've never played the old one, sometimes I'm going to try to like catch up on the beginning of the series first, so I don't get spoiled by all the quality of life.
I feel like sometimes there's a little bit of a sweet spot with that, though, isn't there? Because like you see a lot of very early access games and stuff being obviously compared to Stardew, and it's like Stardew's had years of updates and lots of content added. You can't compare it to the game that's just released in early access in how much content there is. I mean, I know that there are a few, like a very small handful of games that have as much content and it's like well polished and such, but it's so hard to compare them, I find.
That's fair. I feel like this is also a curse of farming sims, that they're all gonna get compared to Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
And I feel like Stardew Valley was, even though like a lot of content got added over the years, I think it was a great game even back in 2016. But that's the thing where like Fields of Mistral came out recently. It's in early access. It's amazing. It's so much fun. But people keep comparing it to Stardew Valley. Same with Coral Island. Same with like every farming sim. They always get compared to Stardew Valley. How do you feel about that?
Sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating, I suppose, because like obviously Stardew Valley was inspired by Harvest Moon. So it's not like it was the first ever farming sim. So you get like Stardew Valley clone all the time, and it's like I think some people either forget or maybe don't know how Stardew Valley even came about. And there's definitely room for multiple games, and some do try too hard to be another Stardew Valley. I definitely I'm not, unaware of that. And maybe see its success and try to also kind of get in on it a little bit. But it has also meant that there have been some really good ones that now exist probably because of it. Things like Fields of Mistral, I'm sure, like if Stardew Valley hadn't done what it did, maybe that wouldn't have come about. And oh my gosh, what a game Fields of Mistral is. It's so good.
So good. Yeah. Stardew Valley definitely had a great impact because we are getting a lot of farming sims since it came out. Obviously, we get some bad ones. Some good ones as well. Some that take a little bit of inspiration. Some that take maybe a little bit too much inspiration from Stardew. But yeah, I just hope people can start recognizing each game for what it is and not compare it as yeah. So the other game on your list that you mentioned earlier, Sunhaven, which we're showing the trailer right now. It says Nintendo Switch. This game is not out on the Switch yet. I don't know if that's ever gonna happen. But what makes this game replayable for you?
I first started playing this game, it was 3 years ago. It's actually my first ever Let's Play that's up on this channel. And that was kind of like me trying to get back into farm sims again. So before that, it was like the years ago that I'd played Stardew Valley on the Switch. But this one had the sort of extra little RPG elements and magic. And as you unlock stuff over time, especially with like 3 different farms, it's another one that can get extremely overwhelming.
Yes.
But there's something about like the charm of the art style and the satisfaction of like unlocking your skills and your spells, having so many things that are upgradable. That's what kind of keeps me wanting to play it again. And then I did start playing it again as a 100 days style thing. It was last year. I did get to sort of like the final boss fight in it. For like a second video, and then sometime after that I lost all the footage. So the entire like second year.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
I
What happened? How did you lose it?
basically I got a new PC and had to move some stuff over, and some stuff got on a drive and got corrupted, and it was a whole thing. I was kind of upset about it because I was like so excited about having actually like finished at least what was there. I'm not sure if there are any content now after that point in the story, but I think that's another good one of like you can finish the story and then carry on what you're doing, but equally you don't have to go and do those parts of the story yet if you don't want to, which is nice.
Yeah, I feel like this game, so I started playing when it began early access. I did like 2 or 3 different save files. I think the first time I finished the story, but then they made the story longer and longer over the years. So with my most recent save file, not finished the story, but I'm doing a lot of side content. So like you said, you don't really have to do too much of the story. At least you should do the beginning to unlock the different towns. But yeah, you can definitely do a lot of stuff. And this game has multiplayer, which also helps. And this one, to me, has a similar feeling to Rune Factory. because you have all of these different skills, all of these different levels, all of these things that you can grind and work towards. I feel like at one point it gets a little bit overwhelming, especially with the 3 farms. I try to just ignore that 2 of them exist, and I just stay in Sunhaven and try to do my own thing there. But yeah, you can play this game forever and ever. And one thing I think that really adds to it too is the decor. There's so many different furniture pieces, so many different stores, and like each town has different styles and themes and furniture and shops. Do you decorate a lot in game? Is that like one thing that keeps you playing?
So that was a question I was going to ask you like a little later. Is, you know, if you're going to talk about decorating, I do like the idea of decorating, but I haven't had much practice of it, so I can find that also overwhelming, especially when you get to a point where you have so many options for things like furniture and even outdoor decorations. But the thing I struggle the most with is because I'm used to this very like challenge way of playing. I keep on being like, okay, but if I need to make sure I get these crops done and that quest done, and I don't make time for decorating. So is that something you find yourself doing? Do you make time like in the middle, or do you wait till you're close to the end to start decorating things? Because that is something I struggle to make time to do.
So usually I wait until I'm done with almost everything to decorate, because in most games furniture is kind of expensive. I feel like that really adds to a game. Like a game that I would play maybe 100 hours normally, if there's decorating, I could easily double that. Animal Crossing New Horizons, for example, like I played that game for over 1,000 something hours, and that is because I could just decorate and terraform, and increases so much the amount of hours I can sink into a game.
I think that's the thing is like when I get near to the end of a save file, I'll do minimal bits of decorating through the end, but then when I feel I'm at the end of a save file, I find it hard to then want to decorate it because then I'm going to decorate it to never go on it again for me. So it's like I struggle with that. So maybe I need to start doing little bits earlier, even not even doing it all at once. But it is kind of nice the idea of being able to maybe theme each save file differently, for example, like people would in like Animal Crossing. But I can imagine like with the amount of different character forms you can take in Sunhaven, there's a lot of room for personalizing it with each farm.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with each farm, like you've got for those who have not played, you've got Sunhaven, which is more like a traditional classic farm. Then you've got Nelvari, which is an elven, very magical town. Then you've got Withergate, which is like a big city, but it has this kind of hell, like almost like Halloween vibe to it. So you can definitely do a lot with those 3. One thing you said earlier that, so I know you do, so you're trying to be productive and efficient when you play, so you don't want to spend too much time decorating. I know you do a lot of 100-day videos. I did a few of those, and I felt like when I was making those videos, I was really, like I had a plan for each day, and I was like, okay, I need to do this. I have like 10 days left. I need to like hurry up, finish this, finish that. But if I just play by myself, I just kind of like do whatever I want, sometimes without like thinking too much. So do you feel that because you're making challenges and like 100-day videos, your playstyle is different? Or if you play just by yourself, you're gonna have the same playstyle?
I think it's because it's the kind of playstyle that generally appeals to me sort of at all. Like even when with Animal Crossing, like to an extent, obviously like fitting an island to a theme is some sort of almost challenge, is like trying to make the place look good, but obviously there's a lot of things that don't fit, so you can't use them, or maybe you're not allowed to terraform or time travel, any of that kind of stuff. But I think also what it is at the moment, especially, is I'm still trying to work on that kind of balance of being able to play some games for myself. So I don't feel like I've had all that much experience, you know, since starting the channel of just playing a game for myself and seeing how it is, especially with farming sims, because that's how the channel started and that's how I did most of it. So I haven't really tried, I guess.
You should try. Yeah.
I should.
But honestly, it is hard because like I did a few 100-day videos, but usually most of the time when I play a game, I record everything and I know I will make a video talking about it, but I don't necessarily like go day by day, so I can just play however I want. Honestly, I don't know how you do it. Like so many 100-day videos like these take so much work, like so much dedication. And there are a few that I started, like you said earlier, like if you start something and then you go back to it later. Like there's some 100-day videos that I started like writing them, and I'm like at 50 days in, and then I stopped. And then I need to go back to it, and I'm just like, I don't know. It's so hard.
I think it's one of those things that, like, for each person who kind of does these things, there's different ways that help. I've been told, like, oh, why don't you just make notes on each day, like before you write any of it, or make it, plan what you're doing with each day. But it's like I can't. That's not how my brain works. Like, if I make notes, I'm gonna forget to make a note about one or two things, and then I'm just gonna forget to even, like, not even talk about it, and miss something significant, and then that takes longer. But I think, like, day by day, I don't really have a plan necessarily. It's more like, right, by the end of this year, I want to achieve these things. And sometimes things like taking a minute to decorate, I'm like, okay, but I might not be able to manage this if I stop and decorate for a few days.
Yeah, every day counts, so you gotta use
Yeah.
your time wisely. So actually, the last game on my list, I also had like Dincom and Sunhaven. They were also kind of mine. So overall, for me, what I would say that makes a game replayable for me would be either like 64, a game where each playthrough is different, so you can start over and over again and have a different experience, try to be more efficient or do things differently. And then Rune Factory, I would say, is because there's just so much content and like grind and like trying to level up, trying to ship everything. So that loop is very addictive to me. Then come, I would say it's just the decorating. Having decorating in a game adds a lot. Yeah. So these would be my main takeaways from like what makes a farming sim replayable. What about you? What are your main like points that you're taking out of this?
So obviously it's got to be mods. I mean, just kidding. It's the games for what they are still like really good, but they do change the game so that, like you said, with Harvest Moon, you're starting again, but you're still doing it differently. That is something that makes the difference for me, is that I don't want to play like necessarily the exact same game over and over again, but it's even like really subtle changes can completely throw a playthrough into a different direction, and that's what keeps it interesting for me, because I just don't know how they're going to go when I start a save. Obviously, like, some forms of the story can help. Like, as soon as I actually started thinking about the characters a little bit more, that kind of makes it more sort of immersive for me, because then I'm not just like going over here to click these buttons and plant these crops. I'm like getting myself into the story of what's going on and sort of losing myself in it a bit. Especially like ones where your choices sort of matter with it. For example, so like if you act in a certain way, these NPCs aren't going to like you, or if you give them these things, that sort of thing. Or if you date someone different, you might get a specific perk next time around. That can change a lot of things. So it's like it's that same but different feel. The comfort of like familiarity, but with something fresh in it.
Yeah, that reminds me. Have you played? I think you've played Kinseed, right?
Yes, I have. I still think there's still more that I would need to do, and I think they've updated the game a fair amount since I last played it. That's a really good game, but I think I've only had one save with that, so I haven't like thought about going back. I don't really know why. I just haven't. It's one of those ones I don't really have a reason for.
Yeah, there is a lot of content, and when you said that, like making choices, I feel like that, and maybe Echoes of the Plum Grove, where you can marry like anyone in town, and like people can pass away, and there's like lots of unexpected events, and sometimes your decisions will impact the world around you. So yeah, I feel like those games definitely have a good like replay value.
Is that one that you've been back to multiple times?
So Echoes of the Plum Grove, I played it quite a while, and it kind of like Concede. They both, you can play like from one generation to the next. So I feel like in one save file is almost like multiple save files in a way. But I need to go back to them. I feel like Plum Grove, I've done almost everything. I have like a few items that I need to collect, but Kinseed, I need to play it more. I feel like I have a lot to do left in Kinseed. The last point, actually, I wanted to talk about quickly, because I know you played a lot of Disney Dreamlight Valley. So maybe we can talk actually a little bit about that, because I know it's not a farming sim, but live service games in general, like, I have footage from Paleo here, but that will do. Like, these games are designed like Paleo, Dreamlight Valley. They're designed to keep you playing forever. Do you play a lot of these games? How do you feel about them?
So with Dreamlight Valley, I can't remember how much I've got in it. I think I might have it here. I think it's something like it's 230 hours. But it's something that it kind of depends what's going on in the game. But because of it being like a live service thing, I've got more of a specific timed reason to get on it.
Yeah.
So I know that they obviously changed last year from being what they were going to be like a free-to-play game, and then they moved to a paid game. But with the way that they introduced how the Dream Snaps work with the Moonstones, I've never had to buy any to get all the Star Passes since then. So as long as I log in, at minimum, I'll log in and do my Dream Snaps. And that will, especially when there's a decoration one, that will force me to go and decorate parts of my valley. So it's making me log in and play the game for what it is, but also with kind of a like, well, I've got to make sure I get on and do this week.
Yeah. Don't you get... That's one thing I have a hard time with these games, because I get that fear of missing out and that stress of like, oh, there's 3 days left to do these things. So I can't really, like, usually I'll play them for a little bit, like 30, 40 hours. And then once I felt like, okay, I had to do what I had to do, I kind of stop. So they don't hook me for as long. I would rather play a single player game with a fixed amount of content than a game that just keeps adding on and adding on and adding on forever. And like with gimmicks to make you play daily, I have a bit of a hard time with that.
That does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think with the thing with the Dreamlight Valley is, I mean, obviously when I'll go through phases, so when a new Star Path comes out, I'll play it a lot in that amount of time. And if I'm having a phase of just enjoying the game in general more, then I'll go in and like I'll do some, I'll go and make some progress with some characters or progress maybe the DLC or the main story a little bit more. But I think one of the things for me specifically with this game is, at least once a week, I need to log in and do my Dream Snaps, and that is forcing me to take a break for an hour from work. So it's like, right, I need to do this. So I must take a break and go and do this thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I feel like for me, the only like live service game that I would play is if they were to like a Story of Seasons, or like a proper like farming sim live service. Maybe they could get me with that.
I mean, it could be cool if they were to do even just adding kind of like seasonal, like real lifetime seasonal events. I mean, it might not necessarily match up to what's going on in the game, but it would have been cool to like, you know, if you play in this window, you might be able to earn this unique item for being here now.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like some games, I'm seeing more and more games, for example, Moonstone Island, they do not necessarily like limited events, but they do a lot of free updates. And I feel like that's definitely one way to keep players playing for a while. Like Moonstone Island does that. My Time at Sandrock does that, which we're gonna talk about in a minute. So that's definitely one thing to do, like having a single player game, but adding like either limited time events or just like free updates.
Yeah, that is the thing, is like adding a fair amount of sort of like extra content over time, or even just like pacing it out over time instead of all at once.
Before we wrap up and go to our news segment, is there anything else you'd like to add about anything we did not discuss about the replayability of farming sims?
I think it's mainly just kind of like it's a comfort thing of like what you get used to, right? So like obviously you might gravitate towards Harvest Moon and games that might be more similar to that even in style, but a lot of people like who want to wind down with something, it can be a lot. I mean, especially like for me and how my brain works and with my kind of energy levels and stuff, I don't always have the energy to go and learn something new and get immersed when I'm trying to like wind down with something. So I mean, maybe that speaks to like each of the different types of games and how well they show you how to do everything, like how the tutorial is, the rate at which you unlock stuff. Like, don't give me everything at once. I'm gonna get overwhelmed and I'm not playing it again. I think that's what it is like the ability to like learn little things over time rather than giving it all at once would make me want to go back to it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, comfort, because sometimes I look at my list of games and like, okay, I have like all of these games I've never played, and I have this game I've played 10,000 times already, and I'm like, do I have the energy to learn something new, or do I just like go back to what I already know? I feel like oftentimes I'm just gonna go back to what I already know, and I'm perfectly fine with it, like we said earlier.
Yeah,
The goal is to have fun, so
exactly.
yeah, exactly. So we're now gonna jump to our news. My Time at Sandrock is getting yet another free update called Update 1.4, now live on PC. It should be coming to consoles very soon, and this adds a lot of romance-related events, so post-marriage quests for each of the following characters: Justice, Owen, Grace, Chi, Logan, Amira, Fang, Mian, Nia, and Unsure, which can be triggered after marriage. A new romance quest for Owen, follow-up quests related to Miguel, and some Kickstarter backer designed quests. So some of the backers who supported the game on Kickstarter were able to design their own quest. Yeah, I think there's gonna be mostly new quests and like interactions. Is it pulling you in? Does it make you want to go to Sandrock?
I think it was more when I saw that there was this update to it, it was kind of a reminder of, oh, I haven't touched that game other than like maybe 1 or 2 hours. I need to go back to it. But this one, the update for what it is, like specifically if it's like a lot of romance-based things, that on its own wouldn't necessarily like appeal to me. But I do know that there are so many people out there who often play these games for that aspect. So it is kind of cool that they are doing a whole update that is like focused on that. There are a lot of games where you marry someone and that's it, and it's like, okay, now
exactly.
what?
Yeah. It's definitely, there's a big part of the community with farming games that really for them romance is like the main thing, the main goal. And yeah, there's so many games where, yeah, like you said, you get married, nothing happens. I like when your spouse, one thing I love about this game is that you can like actually go out on dates and do like little mini games and activities, and now you get some quests. But I love when your spouse like waters your crops or take care of your animals. I love when you get like a little gameplay associated with it. So yeah, a free update. And they're also going to be releasing a DLC called Love Chronicles, which they don't tell us too much about yet. But yeah, it's going to be more of the same, just more romance related things and quests. Next, we are you a little bit familiar with Cozy Grove?
I know it exists. Is another one of those ones where everyone's like, you need to play this game, and I just haven't. I don't know what it is. I just haven't been able to get to it, I guess.
Yeah. So it's very similar to Animal Crossing, where it's based on a day by day, like based on the real time. And you're this scout on this island, and you're helping some spirits to do things. So you're gonna collect items, fish, decorate, find some pets. So it's a very nice game that you can play in like 30 minutes a day or something like that. So recently the developers got acquired, 2 years ago, the developer got acquired by Netflix. So they released Cozy Grove Camp Spirit on Netflix games. So you have to play on mobile basically. And I know a lot of people were disappointed by that because they loved the first game. They wanted to play the second one, but they don't want to play on their phone, or they don't want to like have to get a Netflix subscription. So that same developer has announced that they're working on something called Project Friendship, and it should be a cozy game about building friendships. So I'm assuming it's probably not going to be too different from Cozy Grove, and they're looking for mobile game testers. So that game will be on Netflix games. I don't think that's going to change since they're owned by Netflix. So the purpose is to have you get a Netflix subscription. What if there's like one game that you really loved and it would only come out for Netflix games? How would you feel about that?
I have no experience with actual Netflix games. Is it? I'm guessing you don't obviously play them like on a TV. It's mobile
Yeah,
games
it's
because I have
mobile.
seen them scrolling through Netflix before, even like on a TV app. I'm like, how would I do that? Um,
Mhm.
but a lot of the time, I think most mobile games don't really appeal to me, like in general, that much, especially ones that might be a little bit more in depth because just my preference is bigger screen, mouse and keyboard.
Same. I know there's a lot of people that don't have consoles, don't have PCs, but
Yeah.
yeah, same for me. Like usually, so Netflix games, I don't know how it works if you can play them on a TV or something, but I know that on the phone, it just you kind of click on the game on your phone, and then I think it opens up another app, and you just play the game. And there's no like all of their games, I think, have no microtransactions, so they're real like just regular games that you don't have to like pay any extra. And I don't know how I feel about like Netflix asking people to test their game for free. I feel like they should
Yeah.
hire. I feel like you should pay. I don't mind if there's like an indie studio asking, like doing play tests or like asking for people to test their game, give feedback. But I feel like if you're Netflix, you should just pay people to like test their game properly. I don't
Yeah,
know.
Netflix can do that. I mean, I have like I will say in the past, like several years ago, I was on a platform that did things like mobile game testing. Um, so like that was kind of cool when I was a little bit more into gaming on mobile when I didn't have like other things to do. But also mobile gaming back then was like a lot different to what it is now. But yeah, I mean Netflix, I think they're just kind of relying on people wanting the opportunity to do it early rather than
Hmm.
getting real test. I don't know how that's gonna come out, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure for sure there's going to be a lot of people applying and like doing it, but I don't know. It just feels it just feels a bit wrong to me if you
Yeah.
don't give anything back to like all the people that are testing your game. But
And did they say in the because I think I read in there like, do you need a subscription to test the game? So you're paying to test the game essentially. I mean, a lot of
oh
people would have a subscription anyway, but
yeah, it is. I just double check. It is. You do need a membership to test
you're
it.
paying to test the game.
Yeah, they should do like we're gonna test it. Sign up. We're gonna give you a free membership so you can test the game.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that'll be like a little incentive, like a little payment, right? But that's not the case. So next, Paleo Pines, we've got some news from their developer. Have you played Paleo Pines a little bit?
Small amount. It was another one of those ones where I managed to get I think I played the demo.
Mm,
But other than that I haven't been able to like just had the time to get into it a bit, but I love dino related stuff because I've played a lot of Ark Survival Evolved. So when I saw this, I was really excited about it, and I just literally not had the chance to really dive into it.
yeah, it was a fun game. I feel like the wrenching aspect, like every dinosaur had different needs, like different diets and like abilities that they could help you. That you would use their abilities on the farm. It had some good ideas. It also was a little bit clunky. I would say it was a fine game, not revolutionary, but it was fun. So the developer is having some issues. They are looking for a publisher or an investor to help them with Paleo Pines 2. So they want to keep working. They want to make a second game, which is good. If you loved Paleo Pines, you might be able to play Paleo Pines 2 in the future. But they are struggling a little bit with money at the moment, which is the case, unfortunately, for a lot of indie developers. It is so expensive to develop a game. They have a whole team to sustain for the development of their next game, Paleo Pines 2, and they say they have other projects that they're trying to work on. They say that if you want to support, you can help them find a publisher. If you want to help in a smaller way, you can get their DLC. You can buy the game if you've only played the demo or just wishlisted the game. You can buy a plushie or some of their merch or share their post on Twitter, which I will link to in the description. So it seems like they're very, very desperate. It seems like they're having a really hard time. Hopefully they can get out of it and they don't go the way of the dinosaurs. I feel like with the feedback they got from the first game, I'm hopeful they could do something really good with a sequel, but
I
only.
think I'm surprised. Like, obviously, I haven't
Mm.
really played much of the first game so far, but I was surprised to see that there was going to be a second one because I feel like that's not something we see that often in farming sims, the sequels.
That is so true. There's not like you've got Star Ref Seasons and Rune Factory that are like long-lasting series, but most studios, if they want to do more, usually they just do like free updates. I guess Sandrock,
Yeah.
like the My Time series, does a lot of sequels as well. Yeah, it's not something we see very often. So I think the idea is exciting. It could definitely improve a lot of things that the first game did not get right. Not sure if it's gonna happen. So speaking of indie games and publishers, we have this game Grave Seasons, and this one they just got a publisher. They're gonna be published by Bloomhouse. They're gonna help them with their game Grave Seasons, which is a farming sim, kind of spooky farming sim, where one of the villagers is a murderer, and you have to find out who it is, and you can marry the murderer either by accident or willingly. I don't know. And I feel like this could be one of these games that is replayable because it's gonna be a different person every time. So you're gonna try to like figure out who it is and see if things turn out differently. Have you heard of that game before? Is it something you've been looking
I have.
for? Yeah.
I can't remember when I heard about it, but it was a long time ago. But I saw the concept of it and I was like, wow, this looks awesome. Like, obviously, it's a bit less cozy, but you know, like you said, it's going to be something that sounds like it'll be super replayable. And it's very, very unique as well. I've not seen anything remotely similar, like kind of concept wise. They don't show us much in the trailer, so I'm so curious still to like hear more about it. But I'm really excited about this one.
Yeah. I'm so excited to learn more. And so they just launched their Steam page, and even the Steam page, it really does not say much. There's like there's the trailer that you're seeing right now, and there's like 2 paragraphs. There's like one paragraph about the game. You escaped jail and managed to make it to Ashen Ridge, but at what cost? So you escaped jail in this game. So you are the murderer. It seems like you did something in your past. It's definitely very unique. So I'm looking forward. Like I can't wait to see more. Like see the actual gameplay, the mechanics, because we know the premise. But that's pretty much like the only thing we know.
I think it's going to be really cool to have something to play in the spooky season that isn't just an all-out horror game. I think that's what I'm most excited for.
That's true. Yeah, it's gonna be a nice combination with like, especially in the world of cozy games, we don't have that many things that fit well for this time of year. I don't think there's no release date yet, so maybe next year, maybe October 2025, we'll get to play it. I feel like it will be like a smaller game because they're not talking about like too many features. So I think it's gonna be that kind of short game where you just like replay over and over, which could be a nice change of pace. So that is pretty much it for this week's news. Emma, thank you so much once again for joining me. It was so fun to chat with you about the replayability of farming sims. I'm assuming you're gonna go replay some Stardew Valley. And yeah. Thank you so much. Anything
100%.
else you want to say to our viewers?
Yeah, just obviously I was very surprised to hear what you said about some people feeling really guilty about replaying games. Like, if that is how you enjoy games, then that is how you enjoy games. It doesn't matter if you want to keep going back to the same thing over and over again and you find comfort in that. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. You don't have to play every single game that's out there.
200% agree with that. So thank you so much. Make sure to check out Emma's channel if you want to see a lot of Stardew Valley, because I don't cover that game that much. I feel like there's so many people in the Stardew Valley space. So yeah, go check out Emma's channel. Do you have like one video that you want, like if someone stumbles on your channel for the first time, where should they start if they want to get to know you and your content?
If you really like kind of like longer form type videos, I highly recommend checking out the Stardew as a Thief series. That's where a lot of people found the channel. So if you haven't seen that, I think that's a lot of chaotic fun. It'll give you a taste of like the kind of things that you'd see here, and it's a really fun it was a really fun time, that one. I loved that playthrough so much.
So did you play with mods to be able to like steal
Yeah.
stuff? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, so there was a shoplift mod. I made it so that I wasn't allowed to really, unless I specifically needed to buy it for perfection, I wasn't allowed to buy anything. I had to steal it all.
That sounds like I'm so curious to go check it out. I want to see how all of that works. Well, Emma, thank you so much. Thank you so much to all of our listeners as well. Feel free to subscribe if you are on YouTube. Leave a review on the audio platforms. And I'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.